Now that I've beaten the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC, and just finished a level 1 playthrough with exclusively 0 damage boss fights, I'm here to break down all the Remembrance bosses from the easiest to hardest. If you like challenge runs, speed runs, scripted videos, and more, be sure to subscribe to not miss anything I post. The first boss on this list is most likely going to come as a surprise to some, considering the controversy over completing this boss without taking hits or damage, due to one particular attack that cannot be evaded or dodged by standard mechanics. Metyr, Mother of Fingers. A magnificently gleaming daughter of the Greater Will, the first shooting star to fall upon the lands between. The mother of all 2 fingers and the finger creepers. Composed of several fingers with 2 arms in front, a stomach made of smaller fingers, and found in the finger ruins of Mire, Metyr is easily one of the weirdest designs I've ever seen FromSoft pull off since the monstrosities that inhabited Bloodborne. In fact, this boss reminds me a ton of Ebrietis, Daughter of the Cosmos, which also had a very weird design that was unlike anything else in the game. The way you approach her in the arena, the music, the atmosphere, and the alien-like origin all matches up. This boss fight ended up being much quicker to complete on my first playthrough, but also didn't give me too much trouble when I tried to do level 1 with 0 damage. Her HP clocks in at 43,296 points. She has quite a decent variety of attacks, deals solid damage, and is also able to outrange you constantly if you get too far away. The fight can become quite dangerous without staying fairly close the entire time. Overall, it's quite simple to inflict bleed on Metyr and also stagger her. I'd say Metyr is no harder than most medium difficulty bosses in the base game. In her second phase, she can add just enough extra variety to her moveset to create quite a bit of pressure on the player, especially on a run where the rules don't allow damage or hits. The unavoidable attack aforementioned is a laser that requires Vow of the Indomitable or Raptor of the Mists to successfully survive. All tainted flesh eventually becomes putrescence, and this clump of it imbibed St. Trina's nectar, which granted it eternal rest. Putrescent Night. Formed together from flesh and existing now only as a servant to St. Trina, this boss is one of the designs that I wasn't sure of. Dude kinda looks like he was made as a placeholder for the new Radahn/Orphan collab coming out in Elden Ring 2. But seriously, as much as the visual appeal of Putrescent is questionable at best, I really enjoyed playing him more with lower damage and health rather than my regular character the first time around. He doesn't have nearly as much HP, clocking in at 20,612 points, with weakness to Holy and Scarlet Rot. Being immune to things like Frostbite make him a little cheeky for us speedrun hot boys with Frozen Craigblade on our spiky balls. But nonetheless, the sole reason I can rank him slightly above Metyr, and I mean slightly, is mostly due to him running away on the horse and not being vulnerable as often as I found Metyr was, especially in Phase 1. Putrescent has some very weird attacks, like the one where he separates from his horse and they both attack you individually for multiple rounds. That one was very difficult to not get roll caught on because you have to have a good lead to make sure that the horse gets rolled properly and that there's enough space to roll his attack right after. Once you get in the groove with Putrescent Knight, I would say that he ranks very similar to a lot of the medium difficulty bosses, maybe high-end medium bosses in the main game. Born as a Carian princess who abandoned her royal lineage to join Messmer's crusade in the Lands of Shadow, motivated by a devotion to Messmer and his ideals, R'hllana left her family, homeland, and even her sister who became the Carian queen, forsaken. R'hllana, Twin Moon Knight. The younger sibling, wielding signature twin blades that she infuses with glintstone magic and Messmer's flame, ends up putting on quite the challenging fight opposed to Rennala, Queen of the Full Moon from base game. One of the trickiest parts of this fight, and the reason that I rank her higher than the previous names, is due to her high attack speeds with both of her swords and little time to land damage in between, aside from a longer recovery here and there. You can of course parry her, and I did this on my first playthrough, but considering parrying is typically a harder endeavor than just rolling attacks, I feel a lot of players will try to beat her the old school way like I initially tried. She has the ability to be spammed with quite a lot of damage when doing the Phase 2 transition, and if set up right, you can kill her during or shortly after. This allows you to skip extra attacks that you would have experienced in the Phase 2 that would be now buffed with lingering magic, making it harder at times to slip by and get your damage in. One huge downside of the design, in my opinion, was only giving her 29,723 HP, because she could have easily forced players to have more exposure to the super flashy attacks in Part 2. A respectable bump up to around 40,000 HP should solve this problem and probably would have made Rellana one of the best bosses in the entire game that is a humanoid. Now, I'm sure some of you already probably think that that's the case, but just from my personal preference, I think she needs to be a lot stronger for how cool of a design she has. With a backstory being so rooted in the DLC's storyline, and execution really delivering when it comes to the mechanics on the fight, it sucks that she can die so fast. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree on that one. Midra, Lord of the Frenzied Flame.